Is Geomancer God tier or trash tier? Let's find out together. What up team, it is your boy MurderInc here, back again with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be discussing and going over how good Geomancer is. Just released a video of a guide and the best champions that I found for this newest tier, and a lot of comments said, Murder, check out Geomancer, Geomancer, Geomancer. So that's what I did. Now fast forwarding, no, rewinding, yes, rewinding all the way back to when Hydra first came out, there were comments because Geomancer, of course, is a very strong champion in the Ultra Nightmare Demon Lord clan boss, right? So the first champion to be tested was, in fact, Geomancer, Brogni, Krisk, all of those guys, because ideally, if they do good in one clan boss setting, logically you want to test them in the new one. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for a reason that's going to be very clear once we go over Geomancer now. Head of Decay. We all know about it. If you don't, you probably should know about it. But just in case you don't, the Head of Decay is the one that cleanses all debuffs from the Hydra heads. And of course, if Geomancer doesn't have HP burn, while the enemy's doing damage, he's doing no damage. So now that that's gone, we get to see for the first time an opportunity for this champion to shine. Alright, so what I did is I built a team. I headed straight into hard difficulty because, okay, listen, let me talk about something before I even get to the clip right here. Coming back to my screen here, let's head over to the clan boss, the Hydra. Listen, for anyone testing anything in this game at any time, we have to be realistic where we're testing things. Don't test anything in normal ever. I'm just gonna break it down that simply. Hard, okay, but not really. The reason why is the top chest for normal is 6.66. You can do that with one really geared champion. I'm not even kidding. The second tier is 20.4 million damage. So the top tier chest for the first difficulty is lower of a requirement than the first tier chest from the next difficulty up. And then from there, it's pretty static. We have 20, we have 29, and then finally we have 36. So everything looks really good except for normal. So if there's any type of game-changing champion to ever come out, don't ever record it in normal because it's very stupid unless you're using 4-star gear and uncommons. I'm just gonna be that blunt with it because you can do that in normal. I've seen it done already. Okay. So with that being said, I did hard difficulty and I did brutal today. We're going to talk about brutal in a second. Let's start off with the hard difficulty. So this is the run. This is the team I used before it starts and gets running here. I have Deacon in the leader spot. I am using Inquisitor Shamail. Complain about it all you want. Wanted to test the champion out. Rector Drath, Geomancer, Vizier Ovelis, and Lord Champfort. What? I know, you're thinking, Murder, why would you be using Lord Champfort? He's really good for a lot of reasons, so let's see how the run plays out here. Basically, if you don't know how Geomancer works, he puts up HP burn. Now, you might see Vizier and say, wow, that's a big brain idea. However, it doesn't work how you might think it would work, and it didn't work how I thought it was going to work. I can spread HP burn, which is why you saw that I didn't apply defense down anywheres, because Vizier only debuff spreads 2 debuffs, right? And what does Geomancer do? HP burn as well as weaken. Now, unfortunately, the ID from Geomancer only applies if it's him. If it's him, applying it to a target. So if you just spread it across everybody, he's not getting insane damage. So unlucky if that was the case, he would be without a doubt the most broken champion ever. Okay, so that's that. However, you still want an AoE HP burn, which is why I elected to use Vizier. On top of that, it's much easier to have Deacon in the leader spot, boosting everybody's turn meter, boosting or putting leech on one target at least and the defense down, as opposed to, I saw someone in the comments say, try Geomancer in that lead spot and pretty much just make it so he's cycling through as quick as possible, using that A3 over and over and over again. Hopefully it is the A3, not the A2. Whatever it is, you guys know what I'm talking about. I elected not to do that because I have Vizier. Now Vizier is going to be, and if you watch the run as I'm going, he's going to be A1ing. Well, actually I'm doing this on auto right now and I'm taking it off. I think eventually I'm going to use the A1 somewhere for Vizier to extend. I believe it's right here. Okay, so I'm using him off of auto. I mean, you can do this full auto if you want. I was just kind of trying to do this while testing so I could explain it in the video. He extends the, I guess, true source. We're going to call it true source HP burn, which is the one that's going to do the damage to all of the champions, not the spread version, unfortunately. With that, I can extend it up to 10 stacks. Then I can reapply it over an HP burn if I need to with what's his face, Geomancer, and then just keep extending. Now, this team is really cool. I liked it. The gear requirements are a little bit high, I'm not going to lie. You need accuracy, resistance on literally everybody, so there's no bad luck here. Why am I running Inquisitor Shamail as well as Rector Drath? Very good question, audience. What happens if Inquisitor gets eaten by the Head of Mischief? See, no, I'm asking you guys. I'm not asking me. I already know the answer. What happens? My team's just gonna get feared to oblivion, and I'm gonna have to restart the key. Rector Drath, of course, has the option and opportunity to prevent that from happening with Perfect Veil. She also has amazing healing on top of things, keeping me topped off despite my team having regeneration gear. I'm just not getting enough turns on everybody to really maximize regeneration gear. So this is why I'm using Rector Drath as well as Inquisitor Shamail. Like I said, this was really only built for hard difficulty and brutal. If I want to go all in, I might consider making a team for Nightmare. However, once again, the gear requirements are very high and I'm nervous that I might not have the gear to use someone like Geomancer in Nightmare. I'm just going to be honest with you guys because the speeds are way higher. The resistance check is pretty crazy once you start getting up to brutal. And I mean, yes, I am using decreased accuracy, but still to survive on top of that is a little bit scary. But once again, another clear benefit of Rector Drath, she has a revive. So just in case someone gets crit, expect someone to get crit. I've seen it multiple times already. Things are going to go fine. So this is kind of the basic breakdown of the run. You know everyone's role except for Lord Chamfort. So Lord Chamfort's kit's really interesting. He has attack down and he has decreased accuracy in an AoE. That's really strong. His A1 has the opportunity to place defense down, but his passive is the key here. He is my resist soaking champion. As you can see from the buffs in the video, he's always putting a shield on himself. So he's always going to have one more buff than every single other person here. He's really tanky. He's HP based. And I mean, he's not going to die. It doesn't matter if it's easy, normal, hard, brutal, Nightmare. He is a really good champion and he's a really solid replacement for a Krisk. And of course, if I used a Krisk here, people would have gotten their pitchforks and let me know about it. So we use Lord Chamfort. Of course, not everybody has him. There are other options, but for the purpose of this video, I used him. Thought he was unique. Didn't really see him around too often. So I said, why not use Lord Chamfort? Now, scrolling all the way through the video here, you're going to see the damage go up, up, up. We're on turn 52, 54, 56, 7, 8, until I stopped the key at around, I believe it was like 19 million damage, something like that. Yeah, so things started catching up to me at 19.5 million damage. Turn count 101, 102, just changing over 16 minutes into the fight. Now you could be thinking, Murder, what's your gear like? If you're crazy over gearing this and this is the damage, this is not that impressive. It's just hard difficulty. What about brutal? What about Nightmare? The gear is decent. I didn't use my best gear for this. I didn't even use my almost best gear. This is kind of like scraps. You will see the stats shortly. One thing about this team that you're going to notice is I don't have masteries on Rector Drath. I don't have masteries on Vizier Ovelis, I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong about that. And I know I don't have masteries on Lord Chamfort. So not having masteries on those three champions is going to be the difference plus much more on me getting that 1 key. So this is literally a 1 key on hard, just in case anyone wants to argue about it. I'm not saying anyone's going to, but if you wanted to, not going to work. So now I'm going to show you the gear and these stats for the champions, starting off with Lord Champ 4. He is in Regeneration gear and Immortal gear, 64,000 health. I mean, kind of high, but nothing crazy. 2,500 defense, didn't really care about it. 227 speed, crit rate, not crit capped, resist, pretty high. Honestly, for resistance, only do the resistance if you want to use a team like this, of course. That's fitting for your difficulty, right? So when I show you something like this doesn't mean go and gear your soaking champion with 413. That's probably too high for hard, if I was going to imagine. I'm going to show you a quick brutal key attempt and why certain things aren't going to work out as ideally here, but accuracy's at 269, all good. And yeah, as far as masteries go, and he has 2 points in the mastery, so he's losing massive amounts of damage here. Okay, moving on to Inquisitor Shamail. I am using my damage dealing Inquisitor Shamail here. We have 100% crit rate, we have 278 crit damage, 179 speed, 44,000 health. Low defense, once again, attacks pretty decent, accuracy resistance. We didn't care about it for him because he'd never had a lot of buffs on him. Typical War Master, because I didn't want too much damage, but I want a decent amount of damage as far as masteries for his counterattacking. Could it be min-maxed if you wanted to go with no damage? Honestly, I wouldn't, for a few reasons. If what's his face, and by what's his face I mean Geomancer, gets devoured, you want someone with big damage, someone like Inquisitor Shamail, to be able to break him out in a reasonable fashion. You don't want to be cutting it too close, so I prefer the damage one. Yes, I do kill the Fearhead quicker, and like we saw from that video, it's not ideal to run on auto. I'm just kind of showing you that you can. If I wanted to min-max it, the damage would be way higher, because why? People watching, why would the damage be higher if I manualed it? Because Rector Drath wouldn't be using Perfect Veil, which would mean Deacon is turn meter boosting the team more, I'm getting more turns, I'm doing more damage, so on and so forth. When she applies that Perfect Veil heal, of course, we're not counterattacking with Shamail, and we're kind of canceling out his mechanic there, but I just wanted to do an auto key just to say I did it. So now we're on Vizier of Velis here. Relentless gear, speed gear, 235 speed, not crit capped, 346 resistance. He was fine, 291 accuracy, 48,000 health, 2,200 defense. Like I said, nothing crazy. Don't follow these stats like perfectly, because you just have to look at what difficulty you're doing. And okay, I was right before. Vizier of Velis has no masteries. Once again, losing out on tons and tons of damage. Giant Slayer champion, of course, using that A1. So the next one we're going to talk about is going to be Deacon. He's in regeneration and a speed set. As far as his total stats, 52,000 health, 2,400 defense, 246 speed, not crit capped, has resistance, has accuracy as well. Nothing too crazy here. This champion is in fact masteried with the typical War Master tree and the defense tree, which you're going to notice all of them have that as well. And finally, we have Rector Drath here, 264 speed, not crit capped, of course. All we really want is resistance on her, health, defense where necessary. She's strong affinity to the Wrathhead, so she's probably not going to be taking a lot of damage. 142 accuracy, we don't really care about her A1 too much. She's mostly just for the heals, and she's also not masteried, so that was another point there. We had 2 speed sets and a resistance set. And finally, the main of the hour, Geomancer, 255 speed, 44,000 health, 2,200 defense, not crit capped. He could be, he would have done more damage, but I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I just wanted to see what his kit could do. 367 resistance, 393 accuracy, way too high in the accuracy. But like I said, I kind of just threw gear together and said, I want to test this guy out. And as far as masteries, he is using, I believe, the masteries from when he was broken on the normal clan boss. And that is going to be War Master and defense tree as well. As far as his gear sets, we do have 2 speed sets and a perception set. We do have 1 set of refresh, but as far as the accessory goes, but it didn't really proc in my runs. So before I start talking about Geomancer, giving my honest opinion about all of this, I do want to show you another run of where I attempted brutal. Now, Brutal is a different beast entirely here, as we can see from the start here. The damage is significantly higher, even though the chests are relatively the same here. I have the same opener. I start with my turn meter boost and I A1. And one thing you guys have to realize is the damage for champions like this, it's kind of the same, or no, it's kind of the opposite is what I'm trying to say, of enemy max health champions. I saw some people saying Geomancer is way better than Royal Guard, way better than Husk. In the early difficulties, of course, I mean, I don't think anyone's claiming that Royal Guard and Husk are who you should be using if you're on normal or hard. The health's way too low, you're doing practically no damage. Once you start getting into Brutal, and once you start getting into Nightmare, you're doing like 1.3, 1.4 million damage per enemy max health hit. Now, no one's going to sit here and argue with me saying Geomancer is better than that. I've seen his damage. I mean, we're going to see it now. I used him in Brutal. He's not doing that much damage with his ability until he starts stacking it up. In that time, Royal Guard and Husk will have used their ability probably at least 2 times, assuming no refresh on both of them. So, is one significantly better than the other? No, that was a huge overstatement, whoever commented that. Is it going to be good? Yes and no. Yes, it's always going to keep getting better because they have more health, just like enemy max health, so that part is going to get better. It doesn't get better at the same rate as enemy max health champions. Those champions scale much higher than champions like Geomancer, who's an RNG based with an additional set of like War Master procs from his HP burn. That's the good news there. The bad news, as I've mentioned before, is this team is very hard to gear. Now, I'm not saying this is the most optimal team. This is just what I found testing. But to use Geomancer in a team like this, honestly, if you have like 2 of them and a Kymar, I think this could be really cool. I'll probably test that at some point. Hopefully I do have 2 Geomancer. If not, I might be in trouble here. But if you have 2 Geomancer and a Kymar, I think you can do a lot of cool things here. That means I can put it up on all 4 heads very quickly. And that's a lot of damage, right? So that could be really cool. I do want to test it out. As we can see here, we do have attack up on the head of Wrath, but we also have attack down. My team took significantly more damage here, and my gear is not a joke. Like, I didn't go crazy, like I said, it's not the best gear, but you shouldn't need my best quality gear to do Brutal. So I'm already taking a lot of damage. You're going to see how things are going to scale. I already lost Inquisitor Shamail at turn count 9, which wasn't even an issue in hard. I think I lost somebody much further into the run than that. So now we're using our HP burn for the second time here. The damage, it's okay. This is usually the damage that enemy max health champions have by turn 2, but who's counting, right? I'm just simply saying that for the meme, of course. But so the damage is good without a doubt. The problem with this team is going to be, as soon as you get Head of Decay, kind of like the people who first tested Geomancer when it first came out, you have to reset the key. So there's a lot of RNG to this as you get higher in the difficulties. If you don't know how the head resetting works here, it works where the higher the difficulty you go, the greater chance you have of having a new head pop up after the decapitated head goes away. Earlier, it's more likely, as far as percentages goes, that you will see the same 4 heads in a pretty steady cycle over and over again. However, like I said, the higher this goes, the less likely all of that's going to be going forward. So as we can see, turn 13, damage is scaling up pretty nice. I believe we have 2 Geomancer HP burns now on the targets here. And as time ramps up, if I can get it on 4, we're going to be pumping some serious damage. However, getting to that 4 spot, like I said, we already lost, what's his face, Vizier Obelis here. So now we're going to reapply it to, I forget, okay, the Head of Mischief here. But we're still doing damage. We got that heals coming out. So I'm just going to pretty much zoom forward until things start getting pretty dicey here. As you can see, the damage slowed down significantly because of many things. One, the speed requirement's much higher. So some people could say, Murder, your speed's ridiculous. Who has that kind of speed for the hard difficulty? may be true, but my speed with Deacon lead with a Shamail team boosting his turn meter is proving to be too slow because I am falling behind, I don't know, 20 something turn counts earlier than the last difficulty. So I would have to increase my speed about 25 to 30 on top of that with the proper resistance, with the proper accuracy. Like I said, I'm not claiming this is the greatest composition I have here. It worked very well for a practically full auto hard run without masteries on 3 champions, which is kind of big if you think about what War Master does to the Hydra altogether, being 4 and Champ 4 being an AoE champion with that A2. But besides that, I don't know. I want to say Geomancer is really good, and I'm going to say Geomancer is really good, but I think he's going to be God tier. I hate saying that. I think it's so cringe, but I think he's going to be like that God tier champion for the earlier difficulties until someone can come up with a realistic way to replicate a team that works in the higher difficulties where you don't need 500 accuracy, 500 resistance, someone to apply decrease accuracy, decrease speed, increase speed, resetting cooldowns. I mean, there's just so much you need to counter this boss here. Geomancer does pretty good with the reducing damage, but it's not crazy good, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The reduced damage does help. You're probably not going to get one shot if you have decent gear, but decent gear, of course, is going to be relative to what you have as the player, right? And what difficulty you're doing. That's where it's all going to be relative. So scrolling all the way ahead here, I believe I backed out at, okay, so we're at 10.9. Okay, so I backed out just before, at turn count 50, I did 10.9 million damage. It's kind of low, to be honest, and I didn't back out because I was safe here. I was, as we can see from the Head of Mischief here, they have 2 shields on them. I have no chance of breaking them. Even with Geomancer about to apply his HP burn, it would have probably netted me a 2 key, I guess, if I was lucky and retrying. That's assuming you have copies of all 6 champions here. So realistically, from what I found, Geomancer is going to be an ideal champion for a 2 key in a higher difficulty or a 1 key in a lower difficulty. That's pretty much what I found. Now, if you determine that the stats you need based on watching the team that I made isn't that crazy, it can definitely be considered a 1 key composition for the hard difficulty. If you consider the gear I used crazy, then for you and your account, it's not going to be a 1 key scenario there. If there's a better way to use Geomancer, leave a comment. I'm curious. I'm probably going to do more testing for him. This is what I found in the testing that I did that worked the best for me. In my opinion, using Geomancer and a Husk, both of those guys together, I think you can 1 key Brutal. I think if you use Geomancer, Husk, and Kymar in Nightmare, you can 2 key. I don't know if you can 1 key. I think the damage is way too high to have in somebody like Geomancer over somebody like Royal Guard. You might be thinking, why? Royal Guard's squishier, he's going to be dying more often. I guess, okay? So I'm not going to say it's for sure, but I can play with it, I can test it out. He has to be very fast. That's one thing that he has kind of working against him, because Royal Guard and Husk, they burst their damage out all in one shot. Geomancer is kind of a ramping guy, and the fact that the Hydra heads are much faster in the higher difficulties, hopefully you understand it when I say this, they're going to be getting more turns more often and burning through the HP burn. So if you have no way to mass extend it, it's going to be less and less likely that you're going to be able to stack up all 4 true source, like we mentioned before, from Geomancer HP burns on everybody, because like I said, you can't just extend it, unfortunately, and get the damage. I do think that would be cool. I don't think they're going to change that and buff Geomancer for the Hydra clan boss, because as soon as you get Head of Decay, you're either ending your key or you're hitting that reset button, because there is no counter to the Head of Decay, unfortunately, because he just cleanses whenever he feels like it. I mean, of course, it's a cooldown, but pretty much whenever he feels like it. And yeah, it is what it is. So give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. What do you think about Geomancer? Is he OP in your opinion after seeing what I just showed you? Is he good? I mean, I'm not going to deny he's not a great champion. In the earlier difficulties, Ninja is going to do way more than Geomancer. It's going to be hard to argue with that. Ninja does, like, with mediocre gear on a decapitated head, Ninja can do, I think, 250,000 damage on his A1. Don't even get me started on that A2 and A3 abilities. He's hitting insanely hard when he stacks up his passive. He's really good with Inquisitor Shamail. So you have many options of great champions. I've gone over tons of them already as far as who's going to be viable for those earlier difficulties. I mean, look at Trunda. You can kind of meme the normal difficulty of the Hydra with the Trunda. Just get a juicy A2 onto a decapitated head. Watch the millions of damage spread doing 4 million plus damage. So testing him out in those early difficulties, once again, just don't do it. If you're going to test something hard, minimum, brutal, definitely a good place to go next after that. And then Nightmare finally. I'm not at the Nightmare step, of course, but do plan to get there. So give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. What do you think? Is he OP? Is he not OP? Is he just a really good champion? There are many really good champions. Give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.